for the whole workshop. But today we'll be focusing on the foundations of public speaking. I will encourage you to keep your mics mute unless called upon. Please stay active in the chat, ask questions, share insights, and connect with each or other participants. So let's move to the chat box before I introduce the facilitator for today. Yes, so we have a lot of people joining us from different parts of the world. We have people from Nigeria, people from UMAT, Takwa, that's Ghana. Myself, I'm moderating from Ghana. Okay, I can see Lagos, sure. So you are all welcome to today's session. Our first speaker today is someone who brings a lot of experience. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Hello, can you hear me? Okay.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can.
Okay, sorry, I forgot that I mute all of you, so I was not hearing your voices. Sorry, so I thought there's a technical issue. Sorry for that, I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay, all right. So sorry about that. Sorry for the interaction. So please, today we are going to talk about public speaking, and we have our first speaker being the name of Mr. Joshua. Mr. Joshua is an innovative thinker committed to driving change through entrepreneurship and social impact. He has 6 years of experience working in the youth space of entrepreneurship and innovation. He believes in young people's inclusion in changing the narrative and is an advocate for creating a conducive environment to nurture young talents. During his university days, he served as the chairman of Trade and Technology Commission under the Students' Council, where he oversaw students' trade, innovation, and ingenuity. From his community engagement and social impact, he was awarded a Millennium Fellow, invited to attend the World Youth Forum in Egypt, collaborated with other 1,000 youths at the Unleash Innovation Lab in India to work on the SDGs and among others. Mr. Joshua is currently the co-founder and CEO of Ricopack Ghana, a food packaging company focused on providing sustainable and eco-friendly packaging options to food brands. Joshua is a positive impact on our planet. Thank you all for being here today. Please, Mr. Joshua, if you're on the call, you can take the podium and let us know what you have for us today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I'm contradicting myself in terms of what I'm going to talk about today and how I'm choosing to begin what I'm going to talk about. And that is because of the medium we are using. Zoom, is different form of communicating ideas compared to having people in person. But then I have a question. Do you think what I'm doing is public speaking? Me sharing ideas with you on this call, will you term that one as public speaking?
Yes, please.
Great. So when we begin the session, you realize public speaking is communicating ideas to a group. So once I'm here communicating ideas to a group of petroleum engineers, I believe, it means I'm doing public speaking, just that the mechanism is different. Because for now, I have advantage of turning off my video at any point in time. Coming in with, can you hear me at any point in time, especially when I become nervous or I'm forgetting my lines. On that note, I hope everyone could hear me.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
please.
Great. So I'll go ahead and share my screen and then resume writing. Can you all see my screen, please?
Yes, please.
Yes, we can see.
Yes, please.
Awesome. So thank you very much, Moderator, for that warm introduction. As you've all heard, my name is Joshua. I'm currently working on Ricopack Ghana, a food packaging company, but I consult with Xenon Agency, through which I'm going to deliver this presentation on public speaking. So Xenon, we do a wide range of things from branding, marketing, trainings, and among others. So this is part of our activities at Xenon. That's what we're going to talk about in this particular presentation, public speaking. Now, public speaking, as I stated earlier on, is communicating ideas. In our everyday lives, we are communicating ideas among our peers. We are sharing ideas among our friends. You are talking to the next person in a bus, in a class, in a group meeting at any point in time. But when you have to do it to a group, that is where we think the ideas that we are sharing with our friends is not invalid. That's where our emotions come into play. That is where it becomes a very difficult task for most of us to do when it comes to doing it in the group. Meanwhile, in our everyday life, especially for engineers, we think, or sometimes we limit ourselves to the technical part of it, doing the calculation, building parts, creating the word. But idea is as good as how it's being communicated. An idea is as good as how it's being communicated. And that's why we have engineers building the world, but politicians allocating where the funds go and what have you, because we are neglecting an important aspect of moving the world or building the world as engineers, which is when we are able to create an idea, we should be able to communicate it. When we are able to create an innovation or come up with something unique, we should be able to communicate it. Other than that, it would always be the situation that someone is working and someone is taking the benefits of it. So it becomes imperative that as engineers, we harbor or learn the skill of public speaking so that help us in not even in communicating ideas to a broader group, but among our groups, communicating to your project members, doing project works, presentation, poster presentation, among others. You need to have this skill of public speaking to be able to thrive in this field. Now, they're saying that there are people who are born naturally good public speakers. There are some friends that I have who could talk about for hours in public without taking a break. And there are some of us who would have to learn. And public speaking is a skill, just as any other skill. You could learn and you could be good at it. And again, just as any other skill too, it improves with practice. I believe if any of us is interested in learning any other skill, let's say to play a piano, to play football, to whatever skill you are interested in, you will know that you have to practice at that particular skill to be a master of it. Same applies to public speaking. If you want to master public speaking, if you want to be good at it, it's a skill that you have to practice and it improves with practice. Now, as I stated from onset, we are always communicating among our friends. We are always communicating among our peers. But it becomes an issue when we are called to stand in public to deliver a speech to a group of people. That's where we find it difficult. And the reason why we find it difficult is because fear overcomes us. Now, one of the greatest stumbling block when it comes to public speaking is fear. And I believe if any of us have tried to speak in public before, to lead a project discussion, to stand in front of even our classmates to talk, you could see that from onset or before you begin, your heart skips some beats in there, and that's fear trying to overcome you. Which means that the first step in mastering public speaking is you overcoming the fear. Now, I remember the first time that I began to speak in public or to hone my skills in terms of delivering speeches or talking to a group of people was in senior high school where I was part of the debate society. And then we were preparing for a debate in Kumasi High. I attended Kumasi Academy, so it was a debate competition in Kumasi. I was in first year and the coach selected me to do the debate on behalf of the school. And I remember clearly because it was one of my first experiences in that regard. That in SHS, when you are going out to a school, there's some excitement that comes with it because you've been camped within the walls of the school for a very long time. Said that when you have the time to go outside, like everyone becomes excited and whatnot. So when you are not the one going to stand there to speak to the group of people, the excitement is there. But myself, who was the one preparing the speech, preparing the debate to go and speak, I wish they had cancelled that particular outing for the school. I wish that debate wouldn't come on. Because throughout the preparation, the bars going to the venue, I could sense my heart beating like it was that bad. My heart's beating. And I'm a person that sweats a lot. So when I become nervous, or even when I'm not nervous, even when I'm talking normally, or I'm having a conversation with someone, I begin to sweat. So imagine being new to the field of public speaking and then I'm nervous. So I was sweating profusely throughout the bus, kept quiet, trying to memorize my lines, trying to better my speech in mind. So, when you speak to a lot of people, that is the same experience that they go through, especially when it's their first time speaking in public. And that fear is so immense that sometimes you wish that the worst could happen, even if it's you dying or the earth opening to swallow you up, such that you wouldn't have to stand in front of people to speak. I think you would prefer that option. However, it's been very, very drastic option for you to choose. And that is how serious the fear of public speaking is. And I think that fear is partly influenced by how we are brought up, not necessarily here in Ghana, but in every part of the world, how we socialize, how we are brought up. I mean, when you are in class and you answer a question and you get it wrong, we are laughing at you. When we are, especially if you are from a disadvantaged background, you are told that play it safe. Um, I mean, there are things around us that is always trying to inhibit us and preventing us from coming out of our shells. So there's a cultural and background influences in that regard when it comes to public speaking, which means that to overcome that fear, we need to re-socialize ourselves because each and every one of us is having an idea to share and our voice is worth hearing. So your voice is unique, you have an idea, and public speaking is just requiring you to communicate that idea to a group of people. Now it makes you feel any better. Even the most experienced public speakers, I mean, the most experienced public speakers so feel that fear when they first stand on the podium to deliver a speech or to speak to a group of people. You never completely overcome that fear. I mean, when you stand there fresh or when you mount a podium for the first time, irrespective of your experience, you could see that you don't know what to expect, the uncertainties. So your heart will skip a bit. But the only difference between experienced speakers and inexperienced speakers is how they manage that fear. So when you are experienced in the field, realize the first few seconds into the delivery, the first few minutes into the delivery, you are back on track, you are back on normal, your confidence is there, and you are giving a good delivery. But the inexperienced speaker may focus on the fear, may focus on the obvious, and begin to fumble, begin to worry so much about what he's saying. And then you can see that the speech performed so poorly. So if it serves you right or if it does any better to you, know that the fear, you're not alone. Each and everyone experiences that particular fear, irrespective of the state that they find themselves in their public speaking journey. But the most important thing is how you deal with that fear. Because confidence, when you are able to master confidence on the podium, it's a byproduct of how you are acting. You can't be confident. I mean, you can be confident before you mount the podium, but you have to psych yourself with that confidence. It doesn't necessarily come as in that this person is confident, so he can deliver the best of speeches. Even if you don't have that confidence, you have to psych your mind. You have to I mean, be super pumped when you are on the stage, act normal, speak normally, and then everything you do will fall in line to be as normal as the flow goes. Which means that confidence is something that comes from you also building it, because I'm sure if I ask any one of you here to talk about, I mean, I'm assuming and I'm sure with a certain number of accuracy that most of us are doing petroleum engineering, because this a webinar for Society of Petroleum Engineers. If I ask you to give a speech on, let's say, a topic in materials engineering, there's a high probability that you wouldn't be confident in that field because you don't have knowledge or you have limited knowledge in that particular field. Which means that one aspect of building confidence, irrespective of the brilliant idea that you have, is occupying knowledge in the field that you're going to deliver in. So, for example, if I have not practiced public speaking, or if I don't know anything about public speaking, and I'm going to talk to you about public speaking, automatically I'm going to fumble. Automatically, because I don't know my content, I don't have the experience in the field, and then I've not practiced the field. These three components will make it very difficult for me to deliver a speech or deliver any meaningful presentation to a group if I've not taken the time to learn and to acquire knowledge in that field. Just as I stated from onset, public speaking is you communicating ideas. And so to be able to communicate, you should have the idea. And ideas comes from learning, ideas come from experiencing. So to be able to deliver a very perfect speech, you have to commit yourself to learning. commit yourself to knowledge in the field that you want to share within. So if I want to make public speaking, what do you call it, a practice, or if I want to take public speaking as a work that I want to do, if I want to teach people how to speak in public perfectly or deliver spectacular speeches in public, myself, I'll have to take time, go through the process, learn how to do it perfectly, build knowledge in that regard. And when I have that body of knowledge, that is when I can communicate and train other people to also replicate the same thing. So that is to say that, I mean, we all have ideas, we all have brilliant things to say, but to make sure you're able to deliver that idea perfectly, commit yourself to knowledge in that particular field. So that at large, when you are speaking to someone and you don't know even the nuggets or the details that comes with public speaking, you know that you're supposed to, because you're a master of the field, at any point in time, you're able to communicate or say something in that regard that makes sense to the next person or the person at the receiving end. So committing yourself to knowledge in the field you want to speak in or you want to talk about is very, very important. So yeah, you accept first and foremost that the fear that comes from public speaking is normal. You know your topic inside out. And second, you have to practice and organize thoroughly. Now, just as I stated from onset, public speaking is a skill. And just like any other skill, it improves with practice. What happens with practice is that when you practice something, it becomes part of you. So if you play piano and you're always practicing, even if they wake you up from your sleep to come and play the piano, you can do that with ease because it's something that you've been doing, it's part of you. If you, let's say, play football, you're always practicing, you're always rehearsing, and they call you to come and play football, it's something that you can do with ease. Because at that point in time, it has become part of you. But I want you guys to go to the extra mile of practicing and organizing thoroughly because this is public speaking. Organization of your speech plays a very important role in your delivery. What to say first, what to follow up with, what to say next. All of those things come in play to make sure that what you are delivering makes sense and it is forming like a movie in the mind of the receiver. So like you are following some chronology in delivering your content to your audience. So practice and organize thoroughly is a very important aspect of your public speaking. And it helps you overcome fear because if you know you're a master of the field, you know you practice the thing and you're asked to come and speak to a group, it becomes very, very easy for you to do. Now, there are relaxation techniques that also help in public speaking. Myself, for example, before I mount any podium to speak, I prefer to stand up. I mean, before introduction and stuff will come in, I prefer to be standing before I zoom in to go and deliver whatever speech, which is mostly a pitch or a presentation, business related. So that is what I've discovered works for me. But there are some general guidelines that help people in terms of taking deep breath before you stand in front of people, using some hand techniques because there's a study that when you put your hands together like this or you're sitting in front, you're standing in front before you mount the podium and you put your hands together like this, helps you build confidence. So there are some techniques in that regard that you could research further into and see which one works best for you. And it could be your ritual that you practice before you mount any podium. Now, when you're delivering a speech to you should focus on the message that you are delivering to the people and not necessarily yourself. So the message that you have to share, that is what your focus should be on and not yourself. When you focus on yourself, that's where the anxiety and everything sets in. But when you're focused on the message and then you believe in the message that you are giving, you realize that everything else falls in place. And that is to say too that if along my presentation you have any question that comes in mind, you can cut me and then ask your question, and then we follow through from there. So now we're going to move on to the basis of structuring a speech. That is to also say that there are different forms of presentation that you are going to do. And then this will give you an overview of it, because for every type of presentation, whether it's project work, whether you are pitching, whether you are doing a group work, whether it's a poster presentation, these things come in play in terms of you having to introduce your content, having a body of knowledge that you are going to share, and then having a very powerful conclusion to that particular thing you're going to present on. So these things cut across a bit. Is there a question?
Wait a second, omit the policy of policy.
Hello, please mute yourself.
So yeah, these things cut across when delivering any type of message. You have an introduction, you have your body, and you have the conclusion. But there's a way of starting what do you call it? Any speech or any presentation that you do. And then from when we began, I stated that I'm going to contradict myself in terms of how I was starting the presentation because of how the whole setup was. You realize that there are a lot of presentation that begins with thank you for the introduction, or thank you very much for having me, or good morning, my name is Joshua, and today our presentation is going to center around this. Or I mean, there are some common or generic way people start their presentation, which is very, very boring. The case is different if you are doing a Zoom meeting because of the setting. But if we're having this particular session in person, I think the start or everything would have been different. The kind of presentation I do a lot is business pitches. So just as I started with my introduction, I work on Rico Park Ghana. We are a food packaging company. Now, when I'm presenting Rico Park, I always start with a statistic. And in pitches, we have a hook, we have a breakdown for what should be contained in your pitch. So we always say begin your pitch with a hook. So when I'm pitching or I'm presenting Rico Park, I always start with the figure 1.5 million tons. Then I pause. So 1.5 million tons, when I give out this figure, everyone tends to pay attention. 1.5 million, what does 1.5 million tons done? What is 1.5 million? What is this guy going to talk about? So that's my hook. That's what I use to capture your attention. 1.5 million tons. That is the amount of plastic being used in the packaging industry every year. So I give you the figure, 1.5 million tons, take a pause, help you give you time to process. Then I come in with that is the amount of plastic being used in the packaging industry every year. You get it? So depending on the kind of presentation you are going to do, you should find a very beautiful way of starting it. I'm sure the kind of presentations you will be having a lot is group presentations. And then I don't want you to be starting your group presentation with, hello, we are group A, and we are going to talk about this. And then also something that we will normally do in our group presentation is, so at this point, I'll hand over to my sister to take over. Then my sister will take over and also go like, okay, thank you very much, my brother. I'm continuing from where my brother ended. No, we are making presentations very boring, especially academic presentation and other forms of presentations become very boring and then very ingenuine in that regard. So we should find a very beautiful way of starting your presentation. And I wanted to create an example for you in using material balance equation. I believe we are all petroleum engineers, and so we are conversant with we are familiar with the concept of material balance equation. Do I need feedback?
Hello, Joshua.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry to cut you short. Please, we are not all petroleum engineers, so please take note of that. Yeah, we are people from diverse fields.
Okay. All right, sure. So I was assuming because it's SP program, we have a lot.
Yes, but it's open to the public. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Great. But I think we are most likely to be doing academic presentations, and then let me find another concept to use. So let's say you're going to present on social experiments that you did regarding how people react to vaccines or something else. So you could come up, or you could start with a nice story that vaccines are a way of preventing us from acquiring diseases. And so our group focus on carrying out this study to make sure that we fully understand how people react to the concept of vaccines. My name is Joshua. I'm the one leading this group presentation. I have other members with me who will get to introduce themselves in due time. So you see how I've created a concept right now because I wasn't allowed to use material balance equation. I've created a concept right now, but I wouldn't go ahead to do introduce that. Hello, we are group A. We are going to talk about vaccines today, and then we make the presentation very boring. So you could start with a startling statistic. So in my case, and with my work at Ricopac, I stated that I always have my presentation with 1.5 million tons. That is just one example. If I'm delivering or presenting to another audience, I could find a very innovative way of starting the presentation. 2 birds, 1 stone. 2 birds, 1 stone. If I start my presentation with 2 birds, 1 stone, I'm going to talk about the fact that the work that we are doing at Ricopac is killing 2 birds with a single stone. But when I say 2 birds, 1 stone, you can see that you're wondering, what has 2 birds, 1 stone, got to do with what this guy is going to say. And I'll tell you that at Ricopac, we are solving 2 problems with a single solution in terms of solving the problem of plastic pollution and also solving the problem of agricultural waste generation with our innovation of converting agricultural waste to paper and eventually packaging materials. I'm boring you with complex stuff. If I don't explain it in detail, you may not understand. But I would say that I always find, or you should always find a very innovative way of starting a presentation. In peak terms, we call it the hook. You have to capture their attention. Now, studies show that people are having a very limited attention span with the advent of social media and stuff. The attention span is reducing drastically. So if you're unable to capture it within the first few seconds of your presentation, you're going to lose them throughout, and then your speech or your message wouldn't have the intended impact on your audience. So a startling statistic, a powerful quote, or a news headline. The World Health Organization estimates that 20% of the entire African population is going to be affected with malaria if things proceed with no intervention. That is a powerful reference you made from the World Health Organization. Or you could start with, according to statistics, about let's say there will be more fishes, there will be more plastic in the sea than there are fishes. You tell them, when I continue my presentation, you will see that you have to tell your audience something new, you have to tell them something as well, capture them. So the very few seconds of how you start your presentation, how you introduce your speech, whatever thing you're going to do, which involves you communicating to a group of people, is very, very important. And then that's why I'm spending a lot of time here, because everything else follows from here. If you have your introduction perfect, if you have your introductions clearly done, you are good to go with other parts of the presentation. So please, from onset, I want you to start every presentation that you do. Think about it. Find a way that you could start with it. It could be an analogy, it could be a story, it could be anything that you are going to tell. I think I'm tempted to still give the material balance equation example because let me break it down. So material balance equation is basically about mass conservation. Let's talk about that. If let's say I'm having a bottle, and I want to get content out of the bottle. Let's say it's a calipo, and I want to get the content of it out of it. I use a straw to poke it, and then the content of it comes out, starts oozing out. That is the principle of material balance equation, which says that mass is being conserved. You get it? So what goes in will come out or is being accumulated. Now, if you're going to, it's a very complex topic. If you're going to present it to a group, especially if it's a non-academic group, you should be able to break it down, use an analogy, use an example like I tried doing to communicate it to the audience. Because as engineers or as petroleum engineers or as whatever academics we find ourselves in, we will have to break down our complex theories with the bare minimum to be able to communicate clearly to the next person. Now, someone was there about Einstein or something that said, if you can't explain it, said that the 1 year old or a 1 year old will be able to understand, then you don't understand the concept yourself. And then I think the hindering block of engineers being able to communicate is because of the complex topics that we are supposed to deal with. I mean, how do we break it down to make sure that the next person or the politician or the president or whoever you're going to present to understand what you say and know how it works? And you realize also that a lot of people, when they are doing presentation, especially when it's a technical presentation, they tend to bore the audience with the details, with the technicalities of it. I mean, it's not everyone that's having the mind or the understanding to get or grasp that particular concept. So if you're able to break it down, I mean, don't tell me what happens at the back end. Tell me how that particular thing happened at the back end, how improve my life. So back to the material balance equation example again, I could say that material balance equation is a very, very powerful equation being used. Without it, you wouldn't have a chair to sit on, especially if a person is sitting in a plastic chair, because without it, you wouldn't have been able to acquire hydrocarbons from under surface, which to produce plastic and eventually to produce something that the person is benefiting from. So instead of boring the person with the details, I could tell you that without this particular thing, you wouldn't have this chair that you're sitting on, or this cloth that you are wearing, or this earpiece that you are listening from, plastic, because they're all resulting from plastic, and material balance equation is what is helping us recover all those hydrocarbons from under surface. So back again onto it, start your presentation with a startling statistic, a powerful quote, a news headline. Now you clearly state your purpose. So when you are doing the introduction, you state what you are going to talk about, what you want the people to capture from it, what everything that you could capture in the introduction, and then you could do. I mean, there are different ways of, especially when you have mastered the craft. There are different ways of going about the entire presentation, because there are presentations that I've done that I don't even introduce myself. I introduce myself, let's say, if I'm about to finish. So I'll talk. So my name is Joshua Deamwa, and I'm the team lead for Recopa Ghana. Thank you very much. So I could move the introduction to the conclusive aspect of our presentation. But this is just the guiding principle. So if you're doing an introduction, you could do self-introduction, add the introduction in, the middle, the conclusion, when you have mastered the craft. But it's just the basic principle to it. So yeah, that is it with the introduction. Now you come up to the body. Now the body of whatever you are going to say is the content, I mean the full content of what you want the people to grasp. The best of speeches or the best of presentations, the best of things said in public are ones that are emotional, memorable, and novel. You have to play with emotions, tap into emotions. You have to say something that is memorable, something that people will remember. You have to tell the people that you are talking to. You have to tell them something new, something novel. Best speeches cover these three aspects or these three categories. Sometimes not all, but you should try as much as possible to fuse these aspects in your presentation. Make it emotional, make it memorable, make it novel. Make it emotional, make it memorable, make it novel. Now let's talk about making it emotional. So, I mean, when you are talking to a group of people, you realize that human beings are emotional beings, and then Everyone loves a sad story, a happy story, like something that makes you sit up in your chair upright and pay attention to what the person is saying. And then more often than not, you will lose touch with this particular emotion if you are reading your content verbatim, especially when you have a written speech. So, for example, if speaking to you right now, I bury my face in my notes and I'm reading everything to you. So make sure your presentation is emotional. Emotion is very important in your speech delivery. I mean, you can see how I'm losing touch with you because I'm trying to read everything verbatim. And that's why sometimes we find some lectures very boring because the lecturer will come and will be reading everything from the board or ask you to read your lecture notes in the class or something. That makes it very, very boring. Another aspect of losing contact with your audience is when you try to grasp everything into memory. I mean, when you've mastered the crafts, there are people, especially when we're doing debates in SHS, there are times where you have to recite your entire script, put it in memory, and then you go and deliver, like read everything from memory. If you're not an experienced speaker and you're reading from memory or you are reciting, you could see that you're not connecting with your audience because when you are speaking, there are pauses that you will make, there are eye contact that you will make, there are gestures you would make. When you're reading from memory, it could be like you are tempted to be, I mean, it's like the bubble is forming up your head and you are reading from it. So you could lose touch with your audience. It's a trick that works with some people, and it's a trick that doesn't work for other people. So, I mean, I've done presentations where we grasp the content verbatim into memory. We did a very wonderful presentation. We were able to speak, connect with emotions and everything. It worked perfectly. But when you're starting out and you wouldn't know how to read from memory or recite everything from memory, I wouldn't advise that because it's sometimes or more often than not, it will cause you to lose touch with your audience. And then also reading verbatim too will cause you to lose touch with your audience. Then comes again back to what I started with. You have to have knowledge in the field that you are talking about. So if you have knowledge in the field, I mean, it's like it's part of you, it's here. You don't need you need only the bullet points. So for example, if I ask you to talk about, if you are someone that watch football, and I'm talking to you about football, Manchester, or I don't watch football much. We are talking about Real Madrid. I mean, you could mention a player and talk about his abilities, his strong leg, the number of goals. Oh, Mbappe, he has done this. When you mention Mbappe, you know the things that follow Mbappe, the teams he has played for, the goals, the number of goals he has scored, where he's from. You know those details. So what will help you is that if you have knowledge, that's why I started from onset that communicating or speaking in public is you communicating ideas. And so you should commit yourself to knowledge in the field. Now, if you have the knowledge in the field, the only thing you need is something to remind you as to what to talk about next. So I'm having notes here. When I refer to the notes, I'm looking at what to talk about
Hello?
next
Hello.
in terms of, yeah, hi.
Yes, sure. Sorry to interrupt. I think there's a hand up. Steven. Steven, please, you can unmute and ask your question.
So please, the question was, when you are trying to pass a public announcement, like you're trying to not necessarily have a public speech, but you are trying to communicate, and you've never done it before, there's this feeling, and then there's also this feeling of experience whereby you've done it before and it didn't work well. So, like, I wanted to ask if there's a way you can actually help us, or you can give us some tips to be able to overcome those past experiences. That was only the question or what I wanted to ask.
Okay, so just as I stated for Moses, when you say it didn't go well, What does it mean? Like, does it mean you couldn't say what you wanted to say to the people, or you said it while fumbling, or you said it while sweating in your shirt, like your heart is beating in the shirt? Because all those things are things that people will characterize that it didn't go well. And that's why I stated from outside that that thing doesn't only happen to just you. So it means almost everyone that has done presentation or that has stand in front of people to speak have had that feeling and continue to have that particular feeling of your heart skipping beats, you fumbling sometimes or whatnot. How you do with that is that, I mean, based on how you react to public sphere or public fight, you go back. It could be that you didn't know the announcement you're going to give. Secondly, you felt you were not the best person to give that particular announcement because let's say class is cancelled or something. Ideally, you expect the class rep to come and give that particular announcement. But let's say the lecturer told you a normal student to come and then you wanted to give the announcement to the class. It could be that you feel you're not the best person to do that, or I mean, there are a lot of reasons. There are a lot of things that comes in mind when we are speaking in public. One of the ways or the foremost part of overcoming that fear is to convince yourself that you are the best person to speak on this particular topic. But then again, you should also be true to yourself to know that if you are not the best person to speak on that particular topic, defer the topic to other someone else to do it. If I've not done public speaking or I don't know anything about public speaking, and I accepted the invitation to come and speak on this particular topic, the high probability that I'm going to fumble. There's high probability that what I'm going to say wouldn't make sense because I've not lived, practiced, and haven't experienced in that particular field that I'm going to talk about. I have a friend that invited me to a podcast, and for some time I deferred, like I didn't want to appear on that particular podcast because I felt I wasn't ready to talk about the things that she wanted us to discuss on the podcast. I told her, I gave her a year timeline that, I'm taking time to build through a year. And then when I'm there, I know that, I've gone through. And so whatever I'm going to share on the podcast will be true and I'll have the confidence to share. So sometimes we should be true to ourselves that if we are invited to speak on a particular topic or we are tasked to speak on a particular topic, do I have the knowledge on the field? Can I commit to learn the knowledge in that particular field? Am I the best person? Or not that am I the best person? Of course, you can speak on that particular field or that particular topic. But what I'm trying to drive at is that you should there are some things that will make you nervous that you should make sure you take out. For example, if they invite you to come and preach at church about fornication, and you know that you are involved in the act, and you're coming to preach about fornication, one of the things that will make you feel nervous is that there could be someone in the audience who knows you for who you are. And so you feel very tense standing on the podium, speaking on that particular topic. That contradicts what you're doing. And that is one of the ways or one of the means that you become very nervous. So such a speaking engagement, you have to decline it. So a lot of work is done on the background before you get ready. So before you accept the speaking engagement or you go and give the announcement or you go and give whatever thing is it, know the field. So probably I did ask you to go and give an announcement about, let's say, something like maybe AI announcements. There may be questions as maybe AI, there's going to be a training on AI that the lecturer has asked you to come and give an announcement on it. There could be a question of what is AI, or when is it happening, or why should I join that class, or like there could be questions around it. So if you're not conversant in the field, then go and give the announcement and someone come, when is it happening? Okay, I have no idea. I have no idea. So you're not the one to give the announcement. Or you have no idea. Or you said it's the AI conference that you're giving announcements on. There could be follow-up questions that will come that you don't know the answers to. How do you answer those questions? And that's where the thought of these is what makes it feel nervous. But if you're in a master of the field, because right now I'm speaking about this topic confidently because wherever you chose the question from, I've actually done the presentation. I've done presentations. I've lived the experience. So I'm confident as to being able to share my experience, being able to share something that may not be my experience, but I've learned or read about to share with you. And that's how you're able to deal with some of those fears. I mean, time is almost running, so let me quickly run through the middle of the content, and then if there are questions, we will take it after the class. Yeah.
Hello.
So-
Joshua.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So though the time is going, but I need to ask this particular question. So, what I heard you saying is that if you are not the expert of that subject matter, you can defer the knowledge to the next person, right?
So you don't have to necessarily be the experts of the subject matter. You should have a viable information, a sufficiently viable information in that field. Because
Okay.
I'm not sure I'm the best person in public speaking to handle this particular presentation, but I have a viable information that makes me able to speak on this matter. Other than that, I'm sure maybe who is it? Vusi Dembakayu or some of those top people will be handling this presentation. So you can continue with the question.
So let's take this situation or this scenarios. Imagine the topic at hand. Let's say it's in your field and all the audience expects you to have the best or the variable knowledge on it. So, and then a situation whereby you don't have it, so you need to defer it to the next person. Now, there can be two questions here. How do you, if you are the expert on that, or let's say you have the variable information on it, how do you disagree with another speaker? And then the next one is, how do you also defer the knowledge to the other person so that you don't feel like you are undermining yourself? Because sometimes you get me. I hope you get my question. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, if you don't want to undermine yourself, learn. That is the first answer. And then also, secondly, we should understand that you're not expected to know everything. Like, I mean, there's the body of knowledge available for the world to consume so vast that no single person I mean is teaching, expect teachers to have knowledge in what they are teaching. But there's time that you ask a question and they will say, I mean, some of them are even genuine enough to say that, okay, I don't have an idea about this, but I think I have to go and research further. So some of them even play the role that, okay, so class, he's asking this question. Anyone is having an answer? Some of them, because they don't know, or they know they want to test the class or something. Some of them try to give it to us as an assignment or something of that sort. There is no shame if you are true to yourself in admitting that, oh, I have limited knowledge in this area. I could get back to you in 2 minutes and I'll be a master of it. Or for this particular topic, if you talk to this person, I mean, the lectures even do it always. For those of you in K University, I'm sure you know our lectures are having. By the way, I did petroleum engineering in K University too. Familiar. So for those of you in K University, I'm sure you know our lectures are having like different fields that they master. So, for example, if you go and ask a question about, let's say, reservoir engineering or something, to let's say Dr. Yen or any of the lectures, is likely to refer you to Casper, who is maybe a master in that field. Even when they are doing project group allocation, they try to align based on the project topic as to a lecturer who is a master in that field. So it happens everywhere, and there's no shame in admitting that. No, I'm not the best person to answer this or the best person to do this. Give it to the other person. It's better that way than to go and disgrace yourself in public. Does it answer your question?
Yes, and then the last question was, how do you disagree without, like, disagree respectfully? How do you do that? When you think, uh,
If I understand your question, like I've said, I don't have knowledge in the field. Someone who is having the knowledge is speaking, and I have to disagree with the person on, or what's the question? If you can have it clearly.
that is when you are like you were saying, it's your field, and then someone raised a point, but you think in your mind that's not a viable answer to that such a point or something like that. So how do you disagree with the other speaker respectfully? Because sometimes if I say something and then you think, oh, maybe you have the best knowledge on this and the best answer should be this way, I kind of the other speaker kind of feel embarrassed. So how do you do it respectfully?
Yeah. So I mean, if I mean, we are humans, and then there are chances that you have knowledge, especially if you are if you are someone who is trying to read widely or something, what's not. There are instances where you have knowledge than the person speaking. Now, your posture as someone wanting to disagree with the speaker shouldn't be to disgrace the person speaking. Your posture shouldn't be to show that this person doesn't know anything about what he's saying. Your posture should be to educate and inform appropriately. And then, I mean, there could be an instance where the person is clearly misinforming the public, where you have to come in and, let's say, interject or make sure the public doesn't leave that particular conference occasion without misinformation. I mean, respectively, you have to, let's say, frame it in a question like, so I think, what about situations where this happens, where the person does not find it himself or it doesn't align with what you are saying? Because I mean, informations and ideas are not universal. They don't apply to anyone. There are always some outliers. So whatever I'm sharing here may not be the foolproof or whatever thing that works with everyone when it comes to public speaking. So, for example, I said, don't read everything verbatim off head. But I corrected that I've done something like that that worked for me. So imagine a situation where I said, don't read everything off head. Like, don't keep the thing in memory and try reciting it to the audience off head. And someone who in the audience who has done it and has worked with for him disagrees with me, and it will come that, oh, no, it's not true. Like, it's not true. You can read from off head and still connect with your audience because I've done it and it has worked for me. You get it? So whatever information that I'm giving is not conclusive as in like a universal law applying to everything. So if you're having a different form of it or a different form of it that have worked for you, there are always outlines. So give the speaker the benefit of the doubt that one is not aware of whatever thing that you are talking about. Frame it as an outlier question. So if, for example, I didn't mention that and someone in the audience wanted to bring my attention to it, okay, Joshua, but there are presentations that I've done up head that actually works for me. I was able to make it emotional. I was able to make it connect with the audience. So what about that particular thing? And then that one, you've given me the opportunity to explain that. Oh, okay, yeah, there are instances that will work for you, but for most people, it becomes difficult reading off head or when you crop everything, because when you miss a line, you are likely to ruin your entire presentation. That will be a more respectful engagement because you frame your question as an outlier, giving me the opportunity to also answer as a rare case scenario where that particular thing works. Does it answer the question?
Sure.
All right. So let's move on. yeah, so making it emotional, I mean, you speak with passion. And so the best of presentation would be those that you are passionate about. So that way you're able to come up with stories, you're able to use personal stories and what have you to communicate and tap into emotions. Um, you show authenticity in your voice, and then that helps you to like connect with your audience. And then also storytelling helps a lot. When you tell a story, I mean, we all love stories. We always listen to stories. When you tell a story, you connect with your audience to a deeper level, and then it makes the content of your presentation very, very emotional. When I was using the material balance equation example, I was one time that Dr. Yen came into our class that he was going to teach us, and he said, I'm going to teach you, it was thermodynamics or something, in a way that you never forget in your life. When you have a bottle of Coke, this. So he used some analogy to try and explain what he was trying to teach us. I had forgotten about it. When I was preparing for this speech and I was trying to use an analogy to explain material balance equation, I remembered that, oh, Dr. Yen has actually used this particular scenario to try and teach this before. So it's still there lying dormant in my memory that it could still, I could still record it. So that's the power of using emotions or tapping into storytelling or whatever to connect with your audience. Let's move on to the next point. Yeah, so these are some of the cues that helps you with making your presentation emotional. There are some verbal and non-verbal cues that you use. The energy in your voice, the pauses. So I said when I'm starting Recopack presentation, when I mentioned 1.5 million tons, then I pause. That is the amount of plastic being used in the packaging industry. So pauses, intonation, I mean gestures, what have you would all contribute to the information that you are communicating. Then again, don't read word for word. You're not reading a speech. You are not giving a lecture. Even lectures that read word for word, you see how we sleep in class. Don't go and read your thing word for word. If you have knowledge in the field, have bullet points that will guide you know what you're supposed to talk about next, and will help you know the content or the flow of the presentation. Eye contact and gestures, movements, they all play a role. Speaking clearly, your tone and pace, I'll talk about it. You pause for effect, I'll talk about that one too. Now, make it memorable. So we are talking about the three things that speeches will cover. We talk about it should be emotional, it should be memorable, it should be novel. Now we are on making it memorable. So memorable aspects, you're making it, you are reinforcing with stories, statistics, and visuals. I'm sure right now, if I ask you about Recopack, maybe some of you remember 1.5 million because I've mentioned it severally throughout this presentation or throughout this topic. And so that is something that when I finish my presentation at Recopack, someone may remember that Joshua talked about 1.5 million. They may not remember exactly what that 1.5 million represents, but the stat is staggering that it registers in the mind. You get it. Another aspect of it, in making it memorable, is also stories, as I mentioned, how we tell stories to make sure that we connect with our audience and make sure that whatever we are telling them, they remember it for what it is. Visual aids to also help. So if I move on to the front page, you could see if I'm doing presentation and I'm using what do you call it? I'm not using PowerPoint or whatnot. I always make sure I have my prototype, my prop there to show to the audience as to what I'm talking about. So yours could be, if it's a group work, it could be whatever thing. Bring a piece of rock, bring a piece of bottle, bring a piece of stone, something to show the audience, like a prop. That helps a very well in presentation if you have a prop there or a prototype, something to show them during that presentation. It goes a long way in helping carrying the weight of your presentation. Visual. So If you are lucky to be able to use it, infographics, PowerPoint, and what have you, you use visuals, pictures, and what have you to make sure that what you are delivering, people will remember and keep the content of it. The next step of delivering powerful speeches is making it novel. Sorry, so the memorable aspect, let me add something. There are ways you could also help your people to, the audience to remember something. Like, for example, if I mention 1.5 million tons, a lot of you wouldn't be able to imagine how heavy or how big or how weighty that particular what do you call it, number is in terms of tons. Like, sometimes even if someone mentioned kilometers, you're unable to imagine how big or how wide a kilometer is. If someone mentioned a meter, I mean, those measurements, figures, statistics, your audience may not be able to visualize or conceptualize what that particular thing means. And so when I'm doing EcoPark presentation and I mention 1.5 million tons, I create a pause. I tell you that is the amount of plastic being used in the packaging industry. I go ahead to help you visualize that is more than the weight of the people on the entire African continent. At least that will give you a fair idea of how huge the problem is or how huge plastic pollution in terms of its contribution over the packaging industry is. Because if they are Africa carrying now this vast land of Africa, I'm saying the amount of plastic being used in the packaging industry every year, the weight of it is more than the weight of every person in Africa when we combine it. I mean, like, even if you don't get it clearly, you can see it's some way, somehow forming in your head. So it becomes very memorable presentation that I'm giving you. And I would want you to use that technique in your presentation. If you give a statistics, if you give a story, if you give something that you could help your people to understand it very well, try to use those things to help them understand. Finally, the best presentations are novel. So teach your audience something new. Teach the audience something new. If I come here and I was talking about the normal rhetorics, the normal things that we know, we're going to speak in public, dress well, we're going to speak in public, speak loudly, be bold. You have to be bold. You have to, I mean, you all know that if I'm going to speak in public, I have to be bold. But that is what I'm battling with. And that's why I need you, Joshua, to tell me how to go about being bold and doing stuff. And so instead of talking about the generics, the presentation will focus on why you're unable to be bold, because you don't have the knowledge in the field. How do you be bold? Commit yourself to the knowledge in the field. Prepare adequately in the field. When you come and stand there, you could use some non-verbal cues, some techniques to help you master courage. One of them is taking in deep breath, breathing out. One of them is standing up before you are introduced, before you mount the podium. Because when you are sitting, blood flow and everything is not as good as when you are standing. And so when you are standing before you are introduced, your flow and everything, you are energetic. There are some people who jump behind stage before they come. There are some people who do push-ups before they come and mount the stage. So instead of focusing on the mere rhetorics, the generics, I have to teach you something new. But then again, too, there's nothing new under the sun, because there's a high probability that if you have sat in a presentation where they are talking about public speaking, some of the things that I'm saying here, you might have heard it somewhere. But how I'll present it will have to be different. It will have to be like new to you. Like, it could be the same information, but how I'm packaging it will have to be new to you. So imagine doing a group work, a project work where you are going to present your lectures. I mean, they are the ones, they are teaching you, they know the concept. But I have to tell them that you are teaching them something new. They will be there and be like, oh, I've not even thought about it this way. You get it? So though there's nothing new under the sun, but I could teach you the same concept, but in a new way. So we have to find a way to make sure that your content is novel. If it is academic work, some analogy that you would use. So it could be the same material balance equation, but you are using calipo to explain it. You are the packaging, how you package the information could give the novelty to the already usual or already existing information out there they are delivering to audience. So make it novel, make it very, very like innovative. Like you teach your audience something new, you share a unique perspective to whatever they know already. So the audience would know what you're going to talk about already, but the perspective from which you come in. Because, for example, if I'm talking about plastic pollution, almost everyone talks about plastic pollution. A lot of people working within sustainability space to talk about plastic. So sometimes the audience are tempted to be tired of it. So in some presentation, I go ahead to say that we may be tired of hearing about plastic, but plastic is not tired about polluting our environment. So it's the same information, but I'm always trying to give you a unique perspective, telling you that yes, this is an old information I'm going to tell you, but why should you listen to this this age-old information of plastic pollution? I come in with a unique perspective, and then I'll go ahead to talk about how different ours would be, blah 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 blah. So whatever information that you're going to give, with whatever, regardless of the audience, I mean, there's a probability that people in the audience might have heard about public speaking, read a book on it, listened to YouTube videos. I mean, but I have to talk about it in a new way, so that what I'm talking about will be novel to you, will be new. Same information, but how I'm saying it, the perspective, the examples, analogies that I'm giving are very different and very new to you. You have to include a jaw-dropping moment, like something that will make your audience go wow on it. And then, I mean, Twitter-friendly headline, like 140 character headline that will go to fit into Twitter, because Twitter limits you as the number of characters you can have in your post. So yeah, make your presentations emotional, make it memorable, make it novel. And then if you're able to capture these, you're able to have a very powerful presentation that you'll be able to talk about confidently. So we've talked about the introduction, we've talked about the body, we're going to talk about the conclusion of your presentations. It's the body that we talked about a lot of things under, making it emotional, making it memorable, making it novel. This is just an introductory aspect to the concept of public speaking. Let me state that. And I mean, we don't have a lot of time for you to grab the full concept. My good friend Agri will do justice to the particular details as to breaking each concept down, and also whatever new perspective that is also coming in. Which means that this may not be an entirely conclusive content to help you master public speaking. So, of course, continuous learning and everything may be required from the end if you are actually committed to mastering this skill and then becoming good at it. So, moving on, your conclusion, whenever you are giving your presentation, you have your introduction, your body, your conclusion. You should have, as part of the conclusion, like a quote, a memorable story, or something for the last. You could see how the flow is there from the introduction, the body, and the conclusion. There's always some story aspects that I'm admonishing you to come in with. But you can't tell, let's say, 3 stories, or you can't fill your entire presentation with stories. Like, you have to go to the concept that you're going to communicate. That is to say, you are not limited as to where you include the stories. It could be the introduction, it could be the body, it could be the conclusion. You're not limited as to where you give an analogy. It could be the introduction, it could be the body, it could be the conclusion. But okay, Theodora, you have a question.
Yes, please. Thank you. Please, my question is, how do we balance authenticity? Like how authentic your speech will be with professionalism. Say I've prepared on this content to deliver on, and it gets to a point, maybe it's getting boring. So I want to infuse in maybe a story, but I don't have any experience in that field. So is it okay if I formulate a story, like let's forge a story, like to grab the attention of my audience? Or because I don't have any experience, or maybe I'll just flow.
Um, last time, I think yesterday, I was listening to a particular podcast, and then it talks about the myth of being authentic. Like when you say authenticity, like in terms of the example that you've given, actually context based on context, what you should be looking out for is your consistency in the flow, because formulating a story up head, if you are not good at it, or if it's not something that you plan ahead of time to tell this particular story during presentation, it could be the end of your presentation. It could be the end of you. So, for example, when I was doing the presentation, I had planned of giving the material balance to creating an example, but I was prompted that not every one of us that would understand. So I have to formulate a story of it. It was done here and now and then, right on the call about the vaccine topic, where I talk about giving an assignment on vaccines and blah blah blah. I was formulating it as and when I was talking to you. It is a very tricky scenario because you could be lost in the thought bubble as you are formulating it, and you are likely to mix, like lose the touch with your audience. But then again, unless you are very very good at it, or you've mastered it, or you've tried it before that it works for you or something, it will be good to stick to what you have and not necessarily try to create stories as and when you are delivering the message or your speech. Because if you notice that it's becoming boring, people are losing attention, you could come in with a code, a pause, a, some attention grasping moments, maybe a pause or like something. But when it comes to formulating an entire story, like a humor, to crack a humor or something, that becomes very, very difficult because how people even react to humor or comics in presentation is very different. You may say something that you actually intended it to be funny, but the audience don't find it funny. And then maybe you were counting on that particular laughter or that particular humorous condition you've created to build your next point. And if that one doesn't happen, it means your entire presentation is going to, like, you've shaken the foundation of it. So the best answer would be, not the best answer because no one is having the best answer to any particular question. The answer I would give would be stick to stick to the plan, especially if you are beginning. Improvising along the speech, I wouldn't advise for beginners. But if you've mastered the field, if you are if you are developing and becoming good at the craft of public speaking, you can improvise along the line to come in with some comics, come in with a story, come in with something that will bring back your audience attention. Does that answer your question?
Yes, please, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, so back to the conclusion. So the conclusion, you can recap the points, what you've talked about. You can end with a strong call of action. You can connect back to your opening. Let me give you another example again. When I'm giving Rico Park's presentation, our conclusion is that more often than not, if I'm going to preach, it's because I'm asking for money. So the call of action would be that join us, like the call of action would be like we are asking for money, this amount to do this. Like, so if you are interested, we are here, take our card or something, we talk to that. And also it depends on the context of it. If you are speaking to a direct investor, is different. If you are speaking to a group of people, it's different. If you are speaking to, it's also context related. But that is to say that presentations or something, speeches or whatever, are always going to end with a call to action. It could be, the call to action could be, in my case, for example, this particular content that I'm presenting, my call to action could be, if you want to further improve in public speaking, engage with Xenon agency through this line, blah, 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 blah. That's my call to action to you, to further get you to act on something. So let's say Xenon is putting up, we have an upcoming webinar where we are going to go into detail how to actually speak in public, where we're going to have an in-person session where you take you through it, you practice there, and then you correct your gestures, you do everything. As part of my call to action on presenting or something like this. So this could be my introductory presentation on public speaking, and my call to action will get you to enroll in that particular course. Local calculated, my call to action could be to get you to buy our packaging materials. Your call to action in academic words could be to further enhance or call for collaboration or further research in that particular topic, call for attention to a particular situation. So there could be a different call to action based on whatever topic that you are talking about. And then you have to recap the points. So you could see along the line, I'm always recapping my points. So that's what I'm saying. There are different techniques in doing that. So I could have chosen to come and do the recaps at my conclusion. But along the line, I always go back and tell you that. So now you know that the best presentation should be emotional, it should be novel, it should be memorable. I'm trying to recap the points so that when you leave here, if you don't remember anything at all, you remember emotional, novel, memorable. That's me recapping my points. But I was doing it along the line, not necessarily at the conclusive point. And then you can connect back to your opening.
Hello,
So
Joshua.
I started with,
Joshua.
yes, please.
So you respectfully, you have 2 more minutes to wrap up. Thank you.
Right. So yeah, I could connect back to my opening. Then my advice to you will be that you should keep going, because this particular session will just be an introductory aspect for you to open you up to the process of public speaking. Whatever I'm sharing here are more or less like nuggets for you to build upon, something to open your mind to the whole concept. Aggie will come and do his part, but they will all be like concept to open up your mind to it. But the greater work will lie on you to keep going as a public speaker or someone who wants to become adept in the field of public speaking. Just as I said from the beginning, it's a learnable skill, so anyone could learn it and could master it. And just like any skill, it's improved with practice. Seek more speaking opportunities. So try, if there is a group announcement, tell them that I want to do this announcement. If there's a project work, tell them that I want to do this, I want to lead it. Like, seek for opportunities for you to speak in public. 2 people, 3 people in front of your mirror. Try, seek for those opportunities to help you to improve. Because the only way you improve at this is through practice. There are groups or there are videos online that people, they are professional public speakers, the TED Talks, Toastmasters and stuff. You could watch those videos, learn how they do it. You could see their manners and their gestures and everything. And it's something that you could learn from. And when you're watching these people, you can see they are some way, somehow capturing the things that we talked about in this presentation. You can see how they are trying to make their stories emotional, how they are trying to teach you something new, and how they are trying to make sure that whatever they tell you, you remember it. And then you keep refining your voice, especially once you want to become a professional public speaker. Your elocution, how you pronounce certain words, how fast or slow you could speak, there are a whole lot of things that goes into it that you could learn. So, of course, keep learning, keep going, and then I'm sure one day you'll be proud of yourself that you mastered the skill of public speaking. Thank you very much for having me. If you have any other question, I'll take it.
Okay, so sir, please, I have a question. Please, with
Emmanuel,
regards to the
Okay. Go on.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
listening.
Okay,
Stephen,
so please,
go on.
with regard to the Toastmasters, I've heard of it before, but at least can you go a little bit deep into information? Like, I wanted it to be insight on it.
I think they're having groups. They're having groups across board. It's been long I checked on them, but they're having groups across board that they have meetings, some online, some in person, depending on the location, where there are refined speakers in there who do peer-to-peer reviews as to how to master public speaking, how to speak perfectly in public. So we have to do further research on that. I've lost touch with. I think when I was in school, there was a session meeting around campus, but I've lost touch with that. So you could search further into it, then learn, see if you could join or something of that sort.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Stephen, for your question. Thank you so much, Joshua. That was powerful insights. I especially like how you highlighted on the importance of personal stories to connect emotionally with your audience. That was a very big one I took away. Okay, so let's open the floor for questions. Feel free to raise your hand and drop a question in the chat box if you have any, so that the speaker can address it from the close. So please, the floor is open for questions.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello, Joshua.
Yes, please.
Please, with regards to what you presented on, is there any book maybe you read that you would like to recommend to us to also up our game in the field of public speaking, please?
There's Talk Like a TED. There's I've forgotten the book, this one's title. I've read it before, but I've forgotten the title. Andrew Carnegie's book on public speaking. And, I'll search for that one. But foremost, you could Talk Like a TED. Does justice when it comes to public speaking. So you can look at that book. Talk Like a TED.
All right, thank you very much.
Stephen, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, so please, let's take a scenario in which I am from multiple backgrounds. I mean, I've been in different countries and understand different languages, and that like it could have an effect on the refining of voice that you said. So, how do you suggest that we also tackle it? Because see, when you have a different language, your tongue sounds a little bit different. So, when you're speaking to a different group of people, there's this certainty of unfamiliarity within them. So, it could cause other communication problems. So, is there a way that you can actually help, or you suggest that me as a person having this difficulty will be able to face and tackle it effectively? Thank you.
I'm going to try and reframe the question. Let me know if that's your word question is. The question is if we are speaking to a group where they speak different language, and then you have to adapt to speak a particular language that the people would, or a particular accent that the people would understand. How do you go about it? Is that a question? Steven?
Yes,
Um,
please.
okay, so that is where I mean authenticity also comes in. That is where you have to remain authentic to yourself. So you don't have to go and, for example, if I'm speaking to people from diaspora, they are you don't have to go and force accents. That will make it even more cringe because sometimes it happens subconsciously. When you're talking to someone in a particular accent, subconsciously you'll be trying mimicking that particular accent that comes in. But with the one that you are forcing, that let's say the person, so if I'm speaking to a group of white people, British, I don't know British accent. When I'm speaking to them subconsciously, some of my accents will mimic what they said. For example, if they talk about water on the call, and I'm also going to try, I'm also talking about water, I'm likely to say water because I've heard from them, like right there and then they say water, like let me give them about water or something. In the call, subconsciously I'll mimic it. But when I try consciously to change my accent, it will become cringe. Like I've not been authentic to myself, but become cringe to that particular audience at the receiving end. So that's where you have to remain true to yourself, and that's where the person of authenticity also comes in. And this is where authenticity actually comes in. Remain true to your language. I mean, once they can understand it, once they're all speaking English, I'm not speaking Cree. Why you're all speaking English? Though somebody may find it difficult to hear, but I have to remain authentic to myself so that I can flow and deliver a message clearly. Because there are conferences you will go that there are people with Nigerian accent, French, Chinese, whatever. But once they are speaking English, though it's not the same as how you say yours, but you could see you can follow whatever thing that they are saying. So remain true to yourself, be authentic in your accent, your language, the way you speak, comfortable about it, and deliver your message clearly.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hello. Are there any more questions, please? Hello.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, so I wanted to ask that when it comes to the delivering of, when it comes to delivering of a particular speech, or maybe you've been invited to a place to give for a public speaking or that, how am I going to, when it comes to maybe, how do I handle unexpected interruption and maybe a technical difficulties on the way when it happens? Please, I'm done.
I mean, technical difficulties are inevitable. For example, this Zoom call, it could have been that my network would disrupt. Could have been that my a call would come in. I mean, those ones you can't avoid them. You have to. I will have to join again, come back and present. But there are some technical difficulties, like for example, I prepared slides. I prepared slides to come and do the presentation with. So in a situation where maybe the slides are all of a sudden not opening, that one I have to be able to improvise, like go ahead and present my content even without the aid of the slides. So there are some pitches that you go to, maybe especially one that you don't have adequate information on. Some of them they tell you that you use PowerPoint, but you come and then you're unable to use the PowerPoint. It's you against your audience. You still have to go ahead and present. That's why you should have knowledge of the field. So now it's more or less, it may not be as best as how you have planned it, but it doesn't also have to be that it will be the end of you. Like, I'm dead about my slides. What am I going to do? I'm dead. I can't present this one. No. Once you are the one who prepared the slides, you are the master, or you have the minimum viable information in the area you should be able to at least deliver, maybe not exceptional, but I know the most basic form of presentation, giving you that your slide based on the information that you have, the notes that you have taken, that you have, and then deliver your presentation. Because initially I wasn't going to do this with a slide. I think it was yesterday that was it someone reached out for the slide. I said, okay, let the team put something together and I'll share with you. Have it delivered. So yeah, once those technical challenges, you have to improvise. The ones that are inevitable, that one. If the microphone, you are taking a microphone to us, and then it's a very large auditorium said that you can't speak without a microphone. You have to pause. It will become messy, but the microphone has to come back for you to speak. But if it's an auditorium where you could go ahead with your natural voice, you could try to speak a bit louder and then still get your message across. So yeah, some of the technical challenges are inevitable. Some of them you can improvise.
Okay, please.
Thank
Do you have any question? Okay, Joshua, I think I have a question that I want you to touch on for us to hear. So, what is one piece of, let's say, advice that you wished you had when you started, when you first started speaking publicly? Like maybe you wish you had certain advice before going into public speaking. I hope you get my question.
Yeah. So I think I advise myself. I wish I convinced myself earlier that no one is actually better than you are, because one of the things that is building or hindering our confidence is, just as I said from the onset of the call, is our socialization, it's our demeanor. Like we think maybe we how do I put it? Especially when you're coming from disadvantaged background, like you want to play it safe, you don't want to put yourself out there. You're not taking opportunities that put a limelight on you. So even in groups, you're always in the corner. Even in class, you want to be in the corner. At the workplace, you are always behind your desk. No, someone is going to take your shine. You have to come out of your shell, sell yourself. So I mean, we are always selling. Human beings are always selling. You have to master how you sell yourself to a larger audience. If public speaking is one of the ways where you sell yourself to a larger audience. So you have to create that mindset that no one is better than you. The people that are doing it, they are learning and they are able to do it. So someone could be better than you in the context that the person having a lot of knowledge in that field. Yes, the person is more knowledgeable. So just like I stated that there could be people who are knowledgeable, but better than you in the context that you can also commit to learning and become a master in that particular field. You get it. So yeah, that is the advice that I would give anyone on there.
Oh, okay. So to reiterate what you said, you wish you had self-confidence. So you were self-confident, or you had the knowledge of self-confidence when it comes to public speaking.
Yeah. So I mean, luckily for me, I was able to convince myself from onset about that particular thing. And then I think from my experience, a lot of people are able to convince themselves of that. That's why I'm giving that advice that, I mean, come out of the shell, take the spotlight when it presents itself. Don't always try to be behind, like you want to be at the back. Yeah. Put
Thank
yourself
you.
out there.
So please, is there any more question? All right. In the absence of any question, on behalf of SP Ghana, I want to say a huge thank you to our speaker today, Joshua. You really did a justice to the topic at hand. Yeah, I must say that. for you shared valuable insights into my surprise. I had a lot of questions for you actually, but then as we were delivering the presentation, I was realizing you were hitting on it each and one by one. So I'm so thankful myself to you and to everyone for your participation. We thank you for coming. This meeting wouldn't have been a success without your participation. So thank you, audience. And remember, for what I got from the presentation, the whole thing is, remember that public speaking is not about perfection. It is actually about practice and connection. Joshua, I hope I'm right on that. Hello, Joshua.
Yeah, hi.
Yes, I made a statement that if I don't remember anything, what I'm taking home is public speaking isn't only about perfection, but it's about connection and practice.
Exactly.
All right.
I think that's also
All
a
right.
powerful nugget to get from the session.
All right. Thank you. So let's carry that into our professional lives, and don't forget that tomorrow, same time, same venue, that is Zoom, we'll be having the next session of this workshop with Mr. Samson, who is going to be our next speaker tomorrow and on 25th. So just as this today that has been insightful, surely you can trust me on that. Tomorrow we are going to give you more and more so that we can all deal with the fear of public speaking. I mean, such fear is so paralyzing when it comes to many people. So thank you all for being here today, and don't forget to share this session with your friends or your colleagues. Remember, to be good at anything is through teaching, just as Mr. Joshua is teaching us. You can reach out to him and then ask him on this. Yes, to be good at anything is through teaching and through sharing. So share with your friends, let them know what you learned, and then tomorrow invite another person. Thank you all for your time, and thank you, SP, for such a platform for us to learn together. Thank you, Mr. Joshua. Bye-bye.
All right.
So this is the end to
All right.
the meeting.